And welcome back, everybody. Fire the Cannon, another week, holiday week here. Jeremy Hubbard with you for another week here on the Fire the Cannon podcast. Joined once again by Brett Swinney of NetSN. And Brett, first off, how are you this week? Getting ready for a nice holiday week with your family?
Yeah, nice holiday week. It's going to be, Jeremy, a lot of things going on at NetSN this week. Unfortunately, it's not a week off at NetSN.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because people always say, man, it must be nice to have a week off. And I'm like, well, not really. We got a basketball game today on Monday. We got no football this week. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But I'm actually excited to jump in and help you. I've been helping you out the last couple of weeks in the booth with some playoff games. And we're gonna jump in and get two more this Friday. But definitely Thursday. It'll be interesting to see when you see me Friday, Brett, if I'm able to move around much. Because Thursday will be a day of overindulgence, probably. But my wife ran down the menu with me for Thursday, and I was like, well, this is going to be trouble. So,
Well, I'll get you out of the house. At least you'll have to climb up and down some stairs, maybe.
Yeah, no elevators at the stadiums this week. I'm going to take the stairs the whole time.
Yeah, you can work off all that turkey and dressing and all the pies and everything else that you've got going on.
So, Brett, you don't know this, but one of the arguments among the coaching staff is who the best griller is, who's the best cook among the coaches, and it's really been a point of contention. And we have a lot of fun with it. Now, you don't know this, obviously, and people at home don't know this, but Coach Nick Harrison, who just came to us this year, he is anti-smoked meat. And actually, as we're recording this on Sunday, he texted the group today and said that he had went to a Thanksgiving with some of his family, and he was disappointed because they had a Greenberg turkey that was smoked there for their food, and he was texting us how he didn't like it. And we're like, dude, something's wrong with you. But for the rest of us, for Coach Ryle and myself and Coach Agnew, Coach Collins has conceded that he's not as good. Like, it's really a 3-horse race, we think, between me and Coach Agnew and Coach Ryle. So this is kind of
sounds like we need a competition.
Well, we did last year. At the end of the year, Coach Dawkins fed all the coaches one day, and Coach Ryle and Coach Agnew and I went to Coach Dawkins and said, hey, look, instead of you catering this thing, right, instead of you spending more money to cater it, how about you take a portion of that money, let us buy some meat each, and we'll all three smoke our own meat and bring it and let everybody eat it, and we'll decide whose is better. And we decided when we had that contest that everybody was a winner because we all got to eat great food. So I will say this. Coach Ryle is coming to my house to eat Thanksgiving dinner. So
no pressure.
I feel like he's conceded also that it's me. And so maybe it's now just me and Coach. And Coach Agnew, he's more of a now, if you like catfish, Brett, I don't know if you do or not, but if you like catfish or any kind of fish at all, Coach Agnew's your guy. He is the fish master.
Well, we talked about this. We found something that we have in common, Jeremy. We don't like seafood.
We really don't like seafood, but I will, if Coach Agnew is making catfish or whatever he has, I'll try it at least a little bit. But
okay.
Anyway, that's a lot of talking about food, but it's that week, right? It is that week.
Yes. Feast week, right?
Feast week for all sports fans. It's a huge week. We were doing some shows for NetSN, recording that today, and we were talking with the guys on there that college basketball season really picks up this week with college basketball tournaments all over the place, and then college football games and teams wrapping up their year. And of course, that's all that's been on TV the last few months. But it's just a busy time of the year and you'll look up and it'll be Christmas here in a few days. It'll feel like so. But anyway, we're glad you're with us again this week on Fire the Cannon. We've been kind of sporadic over the last few weeks, and it's been difficult because as things wind down and new things start, it's hard to always get people together. And we want to continue to do this to let you know what's going on. But before we talk about what's going on, we do want to go back because we haven't had an episode since the end of the football season and the playoff game against Grace Prep at home. And Brett, you were there calling the game for NetSN. Of course, I was there. And a lot of people listening were there. We had a great crowd that night, first of all, I thought. And that was we appreciate that. I know our kids appreciate it. And even though the game didn't go the way we wanted it to, it was still nice to have that many people there and supporting the way that you did. But it was a tough loss. It was one that man, the game was so close. I mean, it was 16-13 with anywhere from 9 to 10 minutes left. I don't remember exactly, Brett, but man, just kind of the proverbial wheels fell off there at the end with some things that happened. And really, anytime the year ends, I mentioned this on our broadcast last week, actually, but you will always remember the last game of the year but I don't think you'll look back and only remember that. I think it's part of the whole thing, and I think that the frustrating part for the coaches and even for the kids, I think the part that the kids were frustrated by was that playoff game against Grace Prep did not represent what they had done all year, Brett.
Yeah, it really didn't. I think, but in kind of way, it encapsulated the season you guys have had. You had a lot of injuries early, in and out of the lineup. You had guys all year. You had guys step in and step up big, but the injuries kind of derailed, the efforts in somewhat. And then you had guys step up and were able to get back in the game. A 16-13 game early in the fourth. I mean, but you had some weird things going. You had
Yeah.
Our man Zigby had been excellent all year long, and it wasn't his fault, but he had a tough night.
Yeah.
You had Cam Ryle go out with a concussion. You had Durrett go out with a concussion. Affrey go out. You had guys that were staples of your offense and scoring points go out. So you had to rely on some guys that hadn't had to play a whole lot. Jonah McCowan stepped up and played well
Yeah.
coming in the game that he didn't expect to play any. And he actually came in and led a little charge and got the team back in it. But it was just a rough night overall. I mean, you got to give your hats out to Grace Prep. I mean, they played excellent. Lee Hugh was amazing. I mean,
Yep.
that kid is
Yep.
something special. But I really do think that it accumulated everything that happened all season. I just hate it for you guys because you kind of gotten rolling there toward the end, and then the injury bug just came back and kind of bit you there in that last game.
Yeah, and you mentioned some guys that had to step up. If you would have told us that in the playoff game we were going to have Jonah McCown to Luke McNeil and Jonah McCown to Tyler Vining as the two touchdowns, and what would get us back in the game, um, we would have seriously questioned what was going on. And it's a credit to those three guys specifically. I say that Luke being my kid, whatever, but him being the leading receiver in that game and Tyler getting his first touchdown in that game, all those things were huge. And Jonah, the way he came in and made a couple of huge throws for us, um, a credit to those three guys for just being ready. And I think, you're right. With the injuries, when you lose arguably statistically at least, your top two running backs on the first couple of drives, and then Cam goes down at the end of the first half, and of course he's probably the third leading rusher yardage wise on the team without looking off the top of my head. When you lose your top three rushers, and what we had been doing was so based on the ground game, and then all of a sudden we couldn't run the football, it was tough. And I think that the week before against McKinney Christian, having to come back and win that game in overtime the way we did, I will say this, and I'd mentioned this to a few people. Our kids were focused in the playoff game, and I say that because yeah, we lost the game, and it's a credit. You mentioned Lee Hugh, the quarterback. For those of you who weren't paying attention to names, the quarterback for Grace Prep had not been their quarterback the entire year. Their coaching staff, you mentioned it. You got to give credit to them because they utilized their best player the best way they could, and I think as coaches, we just felt like every time they would do something, we would adjust, and then they would do something else, and we would adjust, and they would, and it was kind of a chess match all night long. The problem just became that we were playing from behind instead of the lead. So yeah, definitely frustrating to lose the game, right? I mean, you never want to lose. You never want to lose a playoff game at home for sure. But I couldn't. I speak for every coach on our staff when I say this. We cannot be more proud of the effort our kids put into it, and not just in the last game, but in every game from July 31st or whenever we started to November what 10th, whenever it ended. Our kids were as hard a working group as you could have asked, and we didn't lose a game because they didn't work hard. We didn't lose a game because they weren't focused. We didn't. I mean, we lost the game because a team played better than we did, and that happens, right? Like that's not always the answer what people want to hear, but sometimes you just play. You go against a team that plays better than you on a certain night, and they have great athletes that can do that. Now, they lose the next week to Lubbock Trinity. They lost this past week in the second round. But it gets. I mean, it's tough to win in the playoffs. I mean, it's not like UIL to where there's 64 teams in each class, Brett. I mean,
Mhm.
there's 16, and so you're already down to the top 16 when you get to that point. So to finish in the top 16 in the state, no matter how big it is, no matter what the class is, I'm still very proud of our kids. I know Coach Rao would say the same thing. All of our coaches would say that, and you watched this enough this year to know that our kids played with some amazing effort all year long.
Yeah, I was really impressed, and you talked about some of those names, and the thing is, you got to look forward to the next season.
Yeah.
You guys are moving up to a different classification, and it'll be a different district. You know, you're inheriting a Grace squad in your district that's been a rival for since the two schools were founded, basically, and so that game will now turn into a district rivalry again. And of course, with some travel games, we're excited that we're going to be back for a full season of you guys football on NSN next year. That's kind of the plan. And so I'm excited for what you guys have coming back. I mean, you talk about some of the names you mentioned. You've got some talent coming back next season. So should be a good year for Brook Hill football here for the next few years.
Yeah, we're excited about that. And speaking of that, let's kind of transition to talk about realignment, because this is something, Brett, that we've known about now for a little over a month. The initial realignment came out back in October, and man, it was kind of, I know a lot of you listening saw that and have heard about it now and are talking about it, but the initial alignment, at least for football, came out where it was Brook Hill and Grace, obviously in East Texas, Grace Prep and Bishop Dunn in the Dallas area, and then Austin Hyde Park, Brentwood Christian, which is also in Austin, and Austin Regents, a 17 football district with some serious travel. And as much as it's a weird travel, Brett, for us to Austin, imagine being Bishop Dunn or Grace Prep going to Austin and what that travel looks like. And so, just to kind of pull behind the scenes in TAPS, when the alignment comes out, teams have a window, or schools have a window, where they can appeal the alignment, and they can talk to TAPS about maybe some different options. And I think at this point, most people know that a lot of the schools in our district appealed the TAPS, that district, and the travel. And we found out last week, ultimately, TAPS said it is what it is. You're going to be in this district. And, I think I'm kind of the person in this on this staff, at least. I know there's some others, but I've been really vocal with other guys about, hey, look, yeah, for us, that travel is new, and it's not something we've been doing. We've been playing East Texas and Dallas and haven't been that bad. But if you look around the state in TAPS, Brett, there are schools that every year travel from Fort Worth to Midland or Fort Worth to Lubbock. There's some schools right now going from Austin to like Brownsville.
Oh,
Like there's
oh.
some serious travel in TAPS, and unfortunately, we're going to get to experience that the next 2 years. I don't know what it looks like after that. Right now, that's the football district, and I think for football, Brett, we could agree. We can talk about the competitive side of it later. I think it's a really good football district, by the way, when you consider us and Grace Prep and Regents as a perennial power. They're in the semifinals in 5A this year. Brentwood and Hyde Park are both going to be better. By the way, Hyde Park, coached by Texas Longhorn legend and NFL kicker Phil Dawson. And so, yeah, so there's some cool things about the district, but it's going to be really competitive. But football is easy, right? It's a Friday night. You're used to maybe a longer day of travel on Friday. You have the day to recover the next day. I think a lot of the concern was what that it looks like for winter sports, volleyball in the fall, and then spring sports, right? Like, how does that work if you're going to travel to Austin on a Tuesday night? And I will say this: we're all working together. The schools are all working. Have been having meetings already about making sure those things don't happen. And I know a lot of concern, Brett, would be how much school you may miss. As far as I know, unless something crazy happens that we're not expecting, we don't know details of what the schedules are going to look like. I wouldn't expect that kind of travel on a Tuesday night, and I think it'll be limited. I think that, looking at some of the other districts in the state, if they're going from Fort Worth to Lubbock or Fort Worth to Midland, they may take a Friday and drive to Lubbock and play the Lubbock team on Friday night, spend the night, wake up, play the Midland team on Saturday, and then come home. I think you may see some of that in some of the sports. I know each sport's going to have their own unique struggles, right? Like for basketball, that's perfect. For volleyball, maybe that works. But what about for baseball or softball, right? Where you got arms and you got to rest guys and all that kind of stuff. So all those things will get worked through. And I hope, Brett, that at the very least, the people listening at home that don't know those details yet understand it's all going to work out. It's all going to be fine. Like, it's going to be new, but it's all going to be fine.
Yeah, and we're going to try to, as far as for football goes, we'll be traveling to those games and covering you guys, and as much as we can in the other sports, and hopefully be able to work something out to be able to do more of that because, we do have the boarding students that they love the coverage, but we also have those that can't travel that far. It's just not feasible. They have jobs they can't get off, and so
Yeah.
um, that'll be what our goal is, to do the best we can to cover as many of those type trips as we can, especially the big games, the one that those are important, that we see that may decide some district seedings and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think the important thing also is to remember that it's real tempting to look at it just from a Brook Hill point of view, right? Like, man, this stinks for us. And yeah, look, I'm not excited about driving a bus or riding on a bus to some of those places, right? But I mean, in when you have two schools, we're outliers, kind of, right? Being in East Texas, with just us and Grace in our classification, so it'll be fine. We lose some traditional rivals for at least the next 2 years. I don't think, Dallas Christian will be in 4A where we are now. I think we will probably never be in a district with them again. I think their numbers are just so much lower than ours, and but we lose McKinney Christian, we lose Prince of Peace, some of the schools that we've been playing against. As a coach, personally, I'm excited about playing some new teams. I think getting in some new rivalries may be good for us. But football wise, man, it's gonna be a loaded district. We'll talk about that another time. But it'll be fine, and it's been interesting to watch as this all has unfolded. Um, okay, so let's talk a little bit about winter sports. Two of the sports have gotten started. Um, Women's soccer, Brett, they actually played a scrimmage last week. They went up to TCA Addison and scrimmaged those guys. And uh, if for those that don't know, Coach Rodrigo came in last year as the new head women's soccer coach. Uh, Made the playoffs with that team last year, and so higher expectations for him. And he works. He is a if you know Coach Rodrigo, he is a super hard worker. His teams will be ready to play. They have he's made me thankful a couple times, Brett, that I coach basketball because I watched him out there in the pouring down rain practicing. And in basketball, fortunately, we never have to do that. So, but they had a great showing up there. They kick off the regular season. Uh, we actually host a soccer tournament November 30th, December 1st, and December 2nd. That'll be the first regular season action for our girls and our boys, and it'll be exciting to watch them. I'm looking here at the schedule. November 30th. The boys soccer team will play at 5:30 against Houston Lutheran South, and then at 7 o'clock that night, the girls will be back in action against Trinity Christian. So that'll be Thursday, November 30th. Your first chance to see those guys. And Brett, I know you are a soccer fan. You follow soccer, and one of the things that has really been awesome to watch in my time at Brook Hill has been to watch our soccer program consistently find themselves deep in the playoffs. And this could be a year that we see that from both of them as well.
Yeah, soccer is one of those sports. It's not for the faint of heart. Those guys have to be in tip top shape. Actually, my kids are playing. I coach them. Currently, we're kind of in the off season, but I got out there and tried to play a little bit. Relive the old days and against the kids. And man, I'm still recovering from that, from that. That's been about a month ago. But I really think that honestly, soccer takes a lot. You've got to be in shape. You've got to have um, as far as you got to know where to go with the offsides rule, and you got to be in the right spot. You get they can put the trap on you real quick, and you be offsides. So there's a lot of things that are really good in soccer. I think it's really good for kids even growing up, even if they're not going to play soccer when they're older. It's a great sport to start with, especially with the conditioning, with all the hand-eye coordination stuff that they have to be able to do. And I hope to at least get out and watch a couple of the soccer games this year. It should be a good season.
And I love our tournament that we put on. It's a huge deal. It's always in conjunction with a few other schools. But I'm looking ahead to that Thursday. We mentioned 5:30 and 7. Uh, on Friday the 1st, both teams will play two games. The girls will play at 10:30 and 7:30. The boys will play at 12 and 6. So find your way out there for that tournament. But those guys will be getting going soon as well. The men's basketball team, they're finally getting a chance to go at it with football ending. Coach Agnew and let me back up a little bit and say this: Coach Collins and the boys, big expectations for them. He's finally getting his people healthy, or not just healthy, but after football ending, get all his guys. The same as Coach Agnew. So Coach Agnew's finally getting his guys ready to go. They've had a good couple weeks of practice since football has ended. They're going to work out some this week during Thanksgiving week, and then they will tip off Brett November 30th. They're in a tournament down in Conroe at Conroe Covenant. So a little later start for them. Coach Agnew maybe tried to find a few games that it just didn't work out with people looking, but they'll go down to Conroe and have a chance to get the season started right. And I'm excited, man. You and I have talked about this. Coach Agnew does such a great job with that team, and excited to see Beck Lingemeyer back and Ryder Williams back, Osagi Zigby back, some of the new faces with Kojo and some of those other guys. I'll be curious to see what they look like. I know Coach Agnew is very positive they could be pretty good based on their length and their size.
Yeah, it's going to be a different look for sure. Because we kind of talked about, after the season last year, Corey and I did a lot of those games, and they're going to have to replace a lot. A lot of varsity experience coming off the board there. But yeah, they've got a solid foundation. I'm excited to see what Coach Agnew does with them. Like you said, they got a lot of athletic ability and size, something that they didn't have a whole lot last year as far as playing wise. So it'll be a little different group, but still excited to see what they've got for this season.
I think talking to Coach Agnew the other day, one thing he said was, "If we can defend, we're going to be okay." I think they'll be fine. I think that one of the things that Coach Agnew, I've always respected about Coach Agnew is his ability to get the most out of his group, and I think that he will definitely be able to do that again this year. And then, of course, our girls team we've been blowing and going for a few weeks now. Uh,
Did you say blowing people out and going? Is that what you said?
oh
Okay.
man, don't say that. But yeah, we've been fortunate. I told somebody the other day, like, it's been a combination of playing really well and playing some teams that are a little bit down, maybe than what they thought what we thought they would be when we scheduled the game. And we're inexperienced too. Like I have really, I mean, we lost a lot in terms of numbers. But we're playing really well right now. But off to a 5-0 start. You couldn't ask for a better start than that. We actually, if you're listening to this on Monday, we actually play a home game today at 4 o'clock against a good Sherino team that just lost in the Wells tournament final to Bullard by 2 points. That's their only loss on the year. A team that we scrimmaged and Bullard beat us by anywhere from 8 to 10, I think, in the two scrimmages. It'll be a good test for us, And I told the girls the other day, Brett, like, it's going undefeated is very hard in a basketball season, so it probably doesn't happen. And it's keep it going as long as you can. I'd love to be eating Thanksgiving dinner, Brett, 6-0 on Thursday. And we're very similar. I think if you come and watch the game, if you don't watch it, by the way, shameless plug here, you can watch it on NetSN. No matter where you're at, you can be able to watch this Brook Hill Sherino game on Monday. You can go back and watch it after the fact if you want to. I think it's
Yeah.
two very similar teams. I think it's a good test for us to play somebody that plays our style to kind of see what that's like. But we're gonna keep it rolling, and hopefully we can, um, continue to build. And we got a long way to go still to get to where we want to get. But we feel pretty happy. I know you got to watch us play a game last week against Gorman, and yeah, I'm always curious to know what outsiders see when they see that. But I hope that when people come watch us now, they see I don't want to say better effort because I think we've played with better effort. I think now it's a combination of effort and ability combining to make it look a lot better.
No, I think that you guys look really good. I always enjoy watching you guys play just because of the style. I mean, you guys put the press on and force people to have to really think about what they're doing, getting in across half court, all the pressure. The thing that and you've ran into it already this season. You gotta press without fouling,
Yeah. Yep.
especially with the new foul rules. Now if you get 5 fouls in a quarter, now you're shooting 2 shots. So you give a good team a lot of free throws that can really put you in a bind early. And so you mentioned the limited bench. You only have so many fouls over there on the bench,
Yeah.
so that's something that I think you guys are going to have to learn on the fly this season. But I was really impressed seeing y'all there. I'm excited. Me and Kyle will be on the call. That'll be, I guess, if you're listening to this on Monday, it'll be tonight or in the afternoon at 4. And again, it'll be on if you miss it. You can go back and watch it. But I'm just excited to see you guys play on a team that's going to really test you. I mean, those are the kinds of games that you want on your schedule to get you prepared for district play and the big things I think that you guys can accomplish this year. I think this could be a really special group.
It could be. That's our hope. So come out and watch if you can. If not, the next time that we will be at home, uh, will be December 7th, 8th, and 9th. And another thing that we want to talk about today is the Brook Hill Invitational. For the last few years, Coach Agnew and the boys have hosted the Tommy Young Classic, and then the girls have hosted the Lady Guard Invitational. We've kind of combined those two things, and it's just the Brook Hill Invitational this year. And there's 6 boys teams, 8 girls teams coming. There's uh, math off the top of my head, it's hard. 28 games total for the weekend. They'll all be in the upper school gym except for 2 each Thursday and Friday night at the lower school. But the cool thing this year is that 24 of the 28 games are going to be broadcast live on NetSN. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, we're excited. Be our first tournament. We got a couple of tournaments lined up this season, but this is the first one to do. So we're excited to bring it to you. We just, of course, we love being in Brook Hill anyway. We'll be set up all day. So if you're coming by, come by the table and say hi. Me and Corey and whoever else decides to come out. We'll have our whole crew in and out all day. But I'm excited for some good basketball. Get to see some teams from the local area because since we cover, all of East Texas during basketball season, it's good to see some other teams and just see how their season's going and talk to coaches. And I'm just really excited about what this is going to do for you guys in this tournament. I mean, we just love covering basketball and in general, and for us to be able to broadcast almost the entire tournament online. I mean, it's during the day, during the work hours or so. Some people that can't see their kids play or whatever will have that available for them. So you just kind of put on your screen in your computer at work and make sure you have your headphones in. Your boss doesn't see you watching. But yeah, we're excited about being there and just glad that Brook Hill allows us to come out and broadcast this tournament.
And what I think is cool about this tournament is, Coach Agnew and I are very deliberate about who we invite to the tournament, right? You want teams that can be competitive with each other, but also you want quality programs, quality coaches, quality kids. And we're really excited about the level of the coaches we're bringing in. I would say that almost to a man, Coach Agnew and I have a ton of respect for each of the coaches coming. And I think that's the best thing about a tournament is when all the people involved are quality individuals. There's you go to a lot of tournaments where they just take whoever comes in, and you don't know what you're getting, you don't know how people are going to act, you don't know how people are going to respond, and we know what that's going to be here. And to host a tournament at our place, we feel like we have the best facilities around, we have the best people around, and to bring that all together, I think will be a great thing. But that's December 7th, 8th, and 9th. That schedule, all the broadcast games are already up on your YouTube page, on NetSN's YouTube page. But we'll be posting that entire schedule here soon. So come out, check out a bunch of good basketball, hopefully.
And we're still looking for some sponsors for the tournament too. So if anybody's interested in sponsoring the tournament, just helps us out to be able to take care of guys and covers all our costs and stuff. Just reach out to us. We have an email address, netsnlive@gmail.com. Just reach out and we can give you all that information if you're interested.
And what's cool about that, guys, if you're listening and you do want to be a part of that, it's not only just for our tournament. I know that Brett and those guys would love to have you on as a sponsor for everything they do. Um, I know I've been fortunate to be a part of a bunch of football broadcasts this year and been a part of a bunch of shows with you guys. And so there's a lot of cost involved in doing all those things. And so just like any other business, support, it's a local business. It's a local group trying to do a service for people. Look at it that way. Look at it as you're helping local guys do a great thing. And I know that at Brook Hill, the people appreciate that tremendously. One last thing to mention before we get off the air. Brett, I told you we were going to go short today. We're almost 30 minutes. We're going to make this work. December 4th, the TAPS state cheer competition will be taking place down in Belton. And in case you did not know this, our girls are the defending state champions in their division and have been working hard to go back and hopefully repeat as champs. Now, I will say this, Brett. There's two things about that. Number one, it's hard to repeat in anything. That's for a lot of reasons, right? And expectations are higher when you are the champions or whatever. And the other thing about that is it's a sport, Brett, that is judged by judges, right? And so naturally, when you're the defending champion, whether it's intentional or not, their expectation of you is even higher. And I think that's more the challenge that our girls are facing. We know what they can do, we know what they're physically capable of, but you got to fight all those factors when you're in that situation.
Yeah, it's something a lot about, Jeremy. You have some inside information on the cheer team
Yeah,
there.
I do, and I hear it all, and that's great. And actually, we'll have my wife Tiffany on the show next week before the girls head off and do all that. There are still a couple opportunities for you to watch them. November 27th, they will have their final show offs. They do this every year with Jacksonville High School. They work together to both teams are going to state at the same time. They get together on that night and they'll be having their performances. All that stuff will be on social media for you. And then I think they're going to do one more performance um, at the school on Friday, December 1st in the morning. I think they're going to do one that anybody can come watch that wants to. So there's a couple opportunities to watch that. Be looking for that on social media. Um, and the other thing about this is I believe now I've been told they're working on a fan bus to go to the cheer competition. One
Okay.
of the things that I've gotten to notice from being there, Brett, is most of these schools are a lot closer to Waco than we are, and they bring a ton of people with them. Like obviously parents and stuff, but they bring a ton of kids to be a part of that. And I think it adds to the
Hmm.
whole performance.
Just,
And the other,
but you need to bring some bodyguards.
you do need to bring the bodyguard student section. And but also I'll say this, and this is not because my wife is the cheer coach or whatever, but when you have a group of people whose sole job is to support everybody else, I think it's important that everybody else supports them in their situation, right? Like the cool thing watching Tiffany and the group and what they do throughout the year is that in addition to preparing for their own state competition, they're preparing pep rallies. They're doing all these other things throughout the year that a lot of the teams don't have to deal with. Like my basketball team doesn't have to worry about hosting pep rallies during basketball season or whatever it is. So there's a lot of things they do, and knowing the some of the things that are asked of Tiffany and the cheerleaders at times, they are always willing to do it, and that's tough. So I would just say if you have the ability to go watch, I know it's a Monday and after the holiday, whatever, I would say I would encourage you to go and watch it. And one of the coolest things of my time as a coach and as a parent, especially and as a husband, was watching them win the competition last year. And not just watching them perform, but watching how important it was to them when they won it. And those are memories that I'll have forever that people I mean, it was obviously it was emotional for them. It was emotional for everybody there because you knew what they put into it, right? I mean, that's I think any championship is special, but I think this one's a little more special in my mind and a little biased, right? But it's more special because of all the other things that they're a part of.
Well, you should be biased. I mean, you see on a daily basis and all the work that she puts in with the girls and the team. And you mentioned a good point. Who's at all the football games? The cheerleaders, basketball games, cheerleaders. I'm sure they go to soccer, like all of these sports that they go to. It's not their sport, but they're there to cheer on the team, whether
Right.
they want to be there or not. They're there, and I'll see. You probably I don't know if you have any this year, but in the past you've had some girls that played basketball. They were also
Yeah,
cheerleaders.
for sure.
They would play in the game, then go in, change their cheerleading outfit, and they're cheering for the boys team
Yep.
right after that. So
Yep.
I mean, they're doing other things as well. It's not like they're just doing cheer; they're in other activities. So I mean, I think that's just it's one of those unsung hero things that you just kind of forget about. And
Yep.
so for them to be able to go out and get their own individual award, and that's just awesome. I think it's a great thing for those girls.
Yeah, you mentioned that Lila Morris, was one of our starters right now on the basketball team, but she's also been doing cheer practice, and so there are many days to where she comes in to cheer at 6:30 in the morning on maybe a Monday, and then goes to school all day, and then has basketball practice till 5:30 or 6, and she's put in 12, 13-hour days, and we it's a lot on those kids, and not just basketball. There are soccer players doing the same thing. There were volleyball players when it was volleyball season. They're having there's a lot put on them, and so I'll be excited to watch them perform. I'll be excited to have Tiffany on next week, talk a little bit more about the way that whole thing works because it's not the same as an athletic competition. It's not the same as a state basketball tournament. There are a lot of factors involved in how you almost get to decide where you perform and how you compete, and there's a lot that goes into that that you and I probably could never understand or explain on our own. Really fun to have her on next week to talk about that before they go compete on the 4th, and I know that everybody will be rooting for them like they did last year. It was kind of a galvanizing thing for us last year for that to happen, and it's they've kind of raised the bar for girls athletics. We talk about all the time, like when a girls team wins a state championship, no matter what it's in, it makes everybody else want one. It's pushed me to be a better coach, honestly, and so don't tell her that. We'll leave that out. But anyway, well, we said we were going to go short today. It's a holiday week. We hope you have a great Thanksgiving. Everybody's listening. And come watching basketball this week if you get a chance on Monday to come watch it. If not, everybody be back in action next week. Come to the soccer tournament next week. We'll talk cheer next week. We'll talk basketball. We'll talk soccer. We'll talk it all, Brett. And hopefully we won't be in a turkey coma or a chocolate
You
pie coma. That's what I'm going for.
we have to get out of it because we got a couple of games to try to get in on Friday. So, can't be in too much of a turkey coma.
As always, check out the NetSN app. I was able to talk to a couple of coaches who have been hearing me talk about this whole thing all year long, and they're finally like, hey, what's this app? Well, if you're listening, the NetSN app is where you want to be. And even Coach Nick Harrison, I wanted to get the app, Brett. He was updating scores for us Friday night for one of the playoff games he was watching.
It took him all season to do that, man.
It took him all season, but he did it. But great for him. And check out all the YouTube content.
Because all our games will be on there. As we're rounding out football season, there'll be less and less on there, but we will have always the games will have on the app. So you can find the games real easily. I believe I've already got the games for tonight on there. So you can find a game and watch it right there from the app. Just an easy place to find of course, we still have a few football games. So if you're doing the Pick'em Challenge, don't forget to get their picks in. Jeremy, did you get your 10 Brook Hill Guard in yet?
We haven't got 10 yet. We're working on it. We're getting close. There's some guys that we even had a player, Dylan Oots, got in there, made some picks, and a couple weeks ago. Right. Yeah. So, but anyway, we're glad everybody's listening. We hope you have a great week. We'll see you soon. Until next time, for Brett Sweeney, this is Jeremy Hubbard saying so long. You're on Fire the Cannon.